Hi, this is Alessio. Hope you're well. Nice to see you again. So in a few moments, we'll talk about Bitcoin, talk about the charts of Bitcoin, and discuss all the details. Before I do that, though, let me first of all tell you where I am. So about a couple of days ago, I took a plane out of London and I flew to Frankfurt in Germany. I stopped over in Frankfurt for a while, had a nice German beer. Now, you guys know I love almost everything that's German, German beer, German food, German cars. Let me tell you, I actually found out German airlines like Lufthansa is actually pretty decent and very relaxing. By the way, they're not sponsoring this video in case you're wondering. And I took the plane out of Frankfurt in Germany to Tehran in Iran, which is where I am right now. I'm actually crashing in my friend's place. By the way, one thing, I haven't flown anywhere for the last year. And when I landed here in Tehran in Iran, the first thing they ask you when you land is, hey, where's your COVID test, right? So I had to pull out my COVID test, show them it's negative. So anyway, I got out of the airport finally, and I made it back to our friend's place here in Tehran. By the way, you're probably asking yourself, why on earth are you traveling in the middle of a pandemic to Iran? Probably a good question. I actually had intended to come over here last year to do some charity work, but because of COVID and everything else that happened, of course, all the flights were suspended. So as a result, I had to wait a whole year before I could come over here. And it's good to come over here, actually help out some charities, because as you might know, Iran is right now being hit on two sides. One is COVID and also sanctions. So both COVID and sanctions are causing a lot of suffering over here. And of course, you got the massive hyperinflation here as well. Anyway, guys, let's talk about Bitcoin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this apartment and we're going to go outside in the streets of Tehran and we'll talk about Bitcoin. Let's do that. All right, guys, I'm now outside. I thought it'd be a good idea to actually take you outside in the streets of Tehran and show you kind of what it's like here. But anyway, let's talk about Bitcoin. So the last time I spoke with you, as a matter of fact, about Bitcoin was almost 4 or 5 weeks ago.
So guys, this has never happened before. We've gone 29 weeks without a pullback to the 21 weekly moving average. If you look at the data, you will see the average figure was 14.7 weeks.
So as I was saying before, back last time I was speaking to you about Bitcoin, it was about 4 or 5 weeks ago. One of the interesting things we talked about back in March, I think it was 23rd of March, when we talked about Bitcoin, was Bitcoin had not had a weekly pullback, to its weekly 21 moving average, which usually occurs. I mean, the average, it turns out, is about 13 to 14 weeks. So the fact that Bitcoin had not had a pullback to its averages, to its weekly average, for such a long time back in March was unusual. But guess what? Now we're in April. As I'm making this video, we're in the middle of April. Bitcoin still has not had a pullback. It's been at 34 weeks. 34 weeks since there's been no pullback whatsoever to the weekly 21 average. Now I know, listen guys, I know you're probably thinking, oh come on, Alessio, surely something much more exciting we can talk about than just a weekly 21 moving average. Well, yeah, there is. In fact, there's something I mentioned in the member videos recently. So over the last few weeks, I've been saying that Bitcoin has been going through what's called a pennant, or indeed an ending diagonal formation. Okay, so if you're not familiar with what an ending diagonal pattern looks like, it looks a bit like that. And notice that it kinds of coils around in this triangular pennant formation, as you can see there. Usually, you can see this with negative divergences on the chart. So as the price goes up higher, you also see divergences with momentum, okay? So for example, MACD divergence is one thing you would see. So that's what we've been seeing now so far for the last several weeks on Bitcoin. Bitcoin going through this holding pattern. It's a bit like the holding pattern you see in an airplane, right? Airplanes often go in these holding patterns until they land, or they're allowed to land. Same goes with Bitcoin. Bitcoin here has been going around, coiling around in this formation now for some time, getting permission to finally break out. Now, question is, which direction was Bitcoin going to break out from? Well, the divergences, and because this pattern is quite bearish in nature, these patterns are often formed at the end of trends, at the end of uptrends, for example. Because these patterns are rather quite bearish, often pennant or rising triangular formations like this are quite bearish. So that's why I was expecting a breakdown. I was expecting a break below that trend line and this pennant formation. So guys, I still think on the balance of probabilities, it's still much more likely and probable for Bitcoin to move towards its weekly averages. In other words, the weekly 21 moving average, which again, we have not tested for several weeks, or 34 weeks now. So you got to ask yourself this question: how likely is it that we're going to just continue going on without a pullback? I think it's very unlikely, as a matter of fact. And again, I know it's not exciting, and I know it sounds boring. Yeah, looking for a pullback to the averages. But guys, listen, if you look at previous trends in Bitcoin, like for example, the uptrend in 2015, to 2017 as an example. Markets don't always, price doesn't always just keep going up, as I'm sure you know. It has these pullbacks, and these pullbacks are healthy. You need to have them because it can give opportunities for other potential buyers to get into the pullback, and actually it gets the price to be a little bit cheaper. Again, makes it more interesting for people. Hey guys, I was recording and I'm being interrupted here by a car. It's passing by here, as you can see. So anyway. Now again, seeing reversions to the mean, reversions to the averages is perfectly normal. Happens in all markets, including Bitcoin. And again, all I'm looking for is a healthy pullback to these averages. Now you might be asking, hang on a second, Alessio. Okay, so let's say we get a pullback to the 21 weekly average, which is about the 45,000 range right now, approximately between 45 to 40,000 range. You could be asking, what happens if Bitcoin does not hold, does not stop at the 21 weekly average and just continues to drop? Well, if that happens, well, we shall deal with that in a separate video. I will cover that with you in a separate video. Should be quite interesting. But for the moment, that's all I'm expecting. In a nutshell, we've been in this pennant formation, this ending diagonal formation, coiling in its holding pattern, finally breaking out, and I'm now looking for that pullback to the 21 weekly average. Again, it's not happened for 34 weeks. And again, what is going to be interesting, what is going to be absolutely interesting is, will it hold that 21 average and continue the uptrend? I think it's quite likely. I think it's quite probable, unless we see something completely different. Okay? Now, in a separate video, we'll talk about how we can know when the uptrend could be over, which is not something I'm expecting, but again, we'll talk about it. I'm not quite sure exactly where I'm going. All I know is, look at this building over here, guys. Absolutely. By the way, this is what you see here is what's called the Tehran International Tower. I might be getting that wrong, but at some point we'll go inside this building perhaps and have a look inside, see what it's like. But it's, yeah, it's quite a sight, as you can see here. By the way, guys, I think that when Bitcoin has its pullback, I think it's quite likely we'll see it pull back also in other cryptos like XRP and Ethereum as well. XRP, when it has its pullback with Bitcoin, XRP will probably experience its wave 2 correction. That should be quite interesting. And by the way, guys, before I finish, let me just say my good friend Sara owns a channel called Hello Iran TV, and I'll be posting some of my videos here in Iran, in Tehran, on her channel. So make sure you subscribe to Sara's channel, Hello Iran TV. The YouTube link is right there, youtube.com/Hello Iran TV. I look forward to seeing you in some interesting adventures perhaps around these parts. So hope you guys stay safe. Thanks very much indeed. Bye for now.